Hey, how's it going, all? Just want to do a quick review on the lyrics of this song from Jay-Z from his like 444 album, and those who follow Russian vids and yeah, Russian vids channel, you can get into the numerology, and 44 obviously has whether it's Masonic or some kind of spiritual ties. So the just want to go through the lyrics, the story of OJ. It's I don't know, it's actually not super popular in terms of number of views on YouTube, but my cousin played it for me, a few weeks ago, and a lot of people, jump on this song as one of their favorite ones, and I understand why. It's definitely fall into that category of quote unquote conscious rap, or just being quote real, and speaking about something that's deeper, than what's out there in mainstream rap, which is not exactly difficult to be deeper than that, because that stuff is really, in outer space, really. So, just going through the lyrics, I like the song. It's catchy, obviously, just like a lot of mainstream music. It's pretty much has to be, in order for it to gain any kind of, penetration into the market, but or to make it on one of Jay-Z's albums. But so right from the beginning, it's like this skin is black. So that right away, is promoting or pushing, furthering, the agenda, of the left-hand side to continue to refer to, people by their color, and the so-called Negroes or the African Americans, which we know are the Jews, and black, is just a color. It's not. It has no information behind it. And it's the wrong color at that. So, of an individual. I would be considered black. If we go by this category, or this classification. So, again, it's subtle. And the elite, know this, and Jay-Z knows this. He's not allowed to, say my skin is brown. People will be like, well, wait, or I'm brown. People will be like, well, why are you calling yourself that? Even though it's accurate. So then he's even, the irony is then he starts talking about light skin and dark skin, which are different shades of brown, and then rich, poor house, and you're still a nigga, and this in many ways, is probably the only real truthful statement of this whole song, is that it is true, and now it's gone to the point where the beast has transcended, even Negroes, is that even Edomites, or Esau, the wealthy of them, they're still slaves, and I've seen this in corporate America, leaders who are, CFO, CEO level, highest levels in organizations, they're still puppets, to someone above them, whether it's the bank that's lending the money or the shareholders or whatever, you're still just, a slave, and that just, you might be able to wear a suit, and sit in board meetings with other quote unquote important people, but it's all the same, so certainly that is the case, with Israel, and that's a true statement. So he goes into stuff and he's like, please don't die over the neighborhood that your mama renting. Take your drug money and buy the neighborhood. That's how you rinse it. This is this is an incredibly blasphemous statement to me. I have no idea how someone could think that this is a smart idea to say this, and to for people to not call this out as the most disrespectful but absurd statement, someone like Jay-Z could make. Like, he takes some flack later for mentioning the Jews. There's an uproar on that, but to me, this is really the most despicable line, that he's basically saying, don't die over the neighborhood that you're not even owning, which is obviously true. We're all renting pretty much nowadays. Even if you own, you're still paying taxes, so you're still renting fundamentally from somebody. Take your drug money and buy the neighborhood. That's how you rinse it. So, we don't know what he's saying by that's how you rinse it, who he's exactly referring to. If he's talking about selling drugs to then buy the neighborhood so the Jews won't own it, the fake Jews, that's would be, better than I don't know what he's implying by saying that's how you rinse it, because if he's saying buy the neighborhood and then, have it for yourself, that's an incredibly arrogant statement. But we don't know, exactly what he was getting at. But first of all, taking your drug money in and of itself, he's promoting, the drug lifestyle, which, I get it. I'm actually someone who is incredibly sympathetic towards, people who do that, and I know that's not a very politically correct thing to say, but there's not a lot to do, and it's really, let's be real, the system that we're in, this beast system, we're slinging dope. It's just a different type of dope, we're still serving the beast, we're not maybe directly hurting people like drugs do, but so I'm not as hardlined on that as certainly the prophets you know would be. But that's still a ridiculous statement, like for someone at his level to be reflecting on his life and trying to like give wisdom, quote unquote, for $9.99, which we'll talk about in a second. That's not wisdom, that's not a wise thing to say. And this is a sad truth that I've had to wrestle with myself. If I was born into this predicament, and I'm the type who I need to simulate that in order to have the words come out of my mouth be sincere, and I would have to, what I've concluded is that I would essentially die. I would not be able to live if living required me to sell drugs. I'd have to just kill myself, and that sounds morbid, or like, that's not what God wants. But that's what, the spirit that's speaking to me, that's what I'm learning, and that's what I'd be comfortable with. And that's the only way I can reconcile the scriptures with the living situation that's in front of me, and I've even thought about, what if I was in slavery, and put on a boat. Obviously this depends on what wisdom God has given that, those individuals at that time, and that varies, quite a bit. But to me, the really, the only thing you can do if you want to be righteous is you have to die. Serving other people in that manner in slavery is, to me, not a righteous thing. And obviously, God has put that in their hearts, and then they had no choice. But in that reincarnation, but that's to me that that's not something you can put easily into a rhyme, and expound upon. But the sort of messages that he's giving in even just those couple lines, to me is very disrespectful. So okay, and then he goes, I could have bought a place in Dumbo before it was Dumbo for like $2 million. Okay, and that same building today is worth $25 million. He's like, guess how I'm feeling, Dumbo. But he doesn't explain that he's not a Dumbo, really, because he didn't know that money printing would expand the way it did. That's the only reason why 2 million turns to 25 million. There is no reason for us to have inflation. That is the biggest lie that's out there. Rising prices on assets are usually a bad thing. You don't want that. That means there's too much money chasing too few assets. Really, the only thing that should dictate, the main thing that should dictate the money supply in any economic system is the number of people. If the number of people grows and they need more money to transact with one another, then the money supply should increase proportionally. That is the foundational thing. You will never hear anybody say that. That's logical, that's simple, that's obvious, biblical. It's not what new app has come out, and what perverted things that our leaders want to do and finance and this and that. We know the money supply is controlled by God, and he's orchestrating the narrative. I'm just speaking in terms of, in the kingdom or in an ideal state, that what it should be, proportional to. And it's the head count, that's it, and that's the main thing. There might be minor adjustments, depending on how skilled and educated, that group is. But for the most part, it's proportional to the head count. So, okay, you want to know what's more important than throwing money away at a strip club? Credit. That's also blasphemous. It's like they're both stupid. Credit is evil, and throwing money at a strip club is also a waste of time and stupid, and a result of this broken society that we live in. You ever wonder why Jewish people own all the property in America? He's referring to credit. And that's not true. We know biblically, because the only reason Jewish people own all the property in America, which is true, I actually lived in this is a quick story. I lived in East Harlem, and I was in Unit 6 in the building, and I the only built door on I was the only door that had three numbers written, 666, three times. All the other rooms had the number written twice, once above each other, but mine was the only one that had 666. It had black and white Masonic tiles, and I scratched out one of the sixes just for whatever reason. They won't know that it's me. But they own that building. It's obvious. So God gave it to them. And he doesn't want to say that. But it's true. And that's to us. Now, and knowing a lot of what we know now, it's obvious. So financial freedom, my only hope, not true. That's false hope. We know that. F living rich and dying broke. Okay. I bought some artwork. It was now 1 million, 2 million, 8 million. Okay, he's not talking about money supply. That's all. The art is not getting better, over time. It's just more money is chasing few assets. So what people do is they go into art. Now it's cryptocurrencies, which we feel is the pipelines for the digital transfer of money through the internet for the mark of the beast. That's what I believe it is. I can't wait to give this to my children. He's trying to give you $1 million worth of game for $9.99. If you flip $9.99 upside down, that's $666. That's not even how much the song or the CD costs, I bet. I turned a 2 to a 4, 4 to an 8. It's the same thing. He's not talking about money supply. Y'all on the Instagram holding money to your ear, there's a disconnect. We don't call that money over here. Really, none of that is money. It's all currency. Real money, real wealth. Is gold and silver, are metals, and ultimately is a stable mind. Is a mind that seeks truth. And that is the real wealth. In the world, and that's the only fruit that will last. We have scriptures to prove that. That the Most High through His Son has told us that we're supposed to bear fruit that will last, and that's the only thing that will remain. Our works will not remain. Our bodies will not remain. Our accomplishments will not remain. The only thing is our mind, and truth, and that is the only thing that is the main thing that will then, branch out into hopefully all aspects of our life and produce, fruit that will last. So, it's just I just want to use this song mainly to focus on money supply and how he's not giving us any wisdom in this song. In fact, to me, he's making a couple of very blasphemous statements, and the little bit that he talks about the Jewish people, which to me is not in any negative way. He's stating an obvious fact that they own all the property of America, which is true, and he doesn't tell us how, and through deceptive practices and market manipulations, which we know is the Most High doing it. So he doesn't give credit to where it's due, and then Jewish people won't give credit to God that God did this, and that's the disconnect. Because if they did, obviously, we probably would live in a completely different society. So just want to do a quick review on that. Definitely a song to think about and pay attention to. That this is considered quote unquote deep rap, which is scary because even the deep stuff now is just it's madness.